wedding for April 30th.
Thank you for your email from 2 minutes ago. I haven't read it yet, but
Yeah.
The magic of AI, put it succinctly.
$1,541.
I don't know. It's immediately waiting.
It's 6
o'clock.
Don't do it.
I was just gonna see if Shireen was in the waiting room, but
Missing stuff other than my red button.
Yeah.
so she should hop up. If you happen to see her, hop up on the right.
Okay,
It'll say waiting to enter.
okay.
It's 6 o'clock, and we'll officially gavel this meeting to order. And first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. And any comments about it?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda for this first meeting, the 6 o'clock meeting on the budget. If we're ready to vote on the agenda, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It is 6 o'clock still, and I would like to officially open the public hearing on the proposed fiscal 26-27 property tax levy for the city of Mount Vernon, Iowa. And we are now officially open. And is anyone here that is here to speak to that budget? You're welcome to introduce yourself, give an address, and you've got 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Oh, that's more than I thought I had. Hi, my name is Dominique Fleming Kiefer. I been a resident of Mount Vernon-Lisbon area since 2015, and I'm asking you guys to hold steady this year for the tax increase. I'm a full-time nurse in the city of Cedar Rapids, and alone on my income, I could not afford to live in Mount Vernon or any of the surrounding areas in of Levy County. I get a daily. I work with a lot of underprivileged kids in the surrounding Levy County, and we get surveys back, and we've seen an increase of people asking for assistance, for food banks, for financial assistance, and you're going to crush a lot of people. I'm not even 30, and I can't afford to live in Mount Vernon or Lisbon, Tipton, not Tipton, Tipton's not, Ely, even Cedar Rapids. My increase for this year for my salary was less than 2%, and that's not affordable. Like, groceries are going up, and if you look at from 2023 to 2025, if you look at the assessment of my house, it went up almost 40%. You're going to kill a lot of people. I'm asking you to hold steady for a lot of these families that are unfortunate and that can't afford it. I could not live in my house right now if I didn't have my husband, honestly. I'm really asking you guys to rethink this budget and find money somewhere else. And this doesn't even include the special elections for adding another full-time paramedic for the Mount Vernon service. I'm really asking you guys to think about this. I know I've heard a lot of other companies that only got less than 1% increase in their wages. I've heard that Cedar Rapids was able to figure out how not to increase their taxes. I mean, I'm just really asking you guys to really think about this and find some money somewhere else. Like, as a full-time nurse, and I can't afford to live in Mount Vernon, and I love Mount Vernon, I really do. I stayed here, honestly. I went to school here. I'm still paying student loans. I still have, even if rent is super expensive around here too. Like, the people who are behind me are like, it's like $2,000 to rent that place. Who, really asking you guys to really think about it. You're going to crush a lot of young families, honestly, paycheck to paycheck. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of families that I see on a daily that are like to the point where we have an actual QR code to the assisted places on the back of these after visit summaries for these families to get extra help. We have a blessing shelf that is empty almost every day after work. Like, people are taking clothing items and food items that are provided from other people. So just really think about it, to hold steady.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
So if I can real quick, just to address, our levy is staying steady.
Okay.
Now, there's seemingly 1,000 caveats to this, so I'll try it.
Mhm.
One thing that we don't control is the state rollback, so that number fluctuates every year. So even though our levy rate is staying the same, the taxes will go up slightly because the rollback is going up from, I believe, 46% to, it's like 2%. It's either 44 to 46 or 46 to 48.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I can't control that. The other thing that I don't control is the other two large levies, and one is the county and the other is the school.
Mhm.
The school is obviously the largest of.
Yeah, and I understand. I get that part, but the other things we know.
Yeah, but we are holding the levy steady this year at $13.50. As I made the council aware, this is the last year of my bag of tricks. I'm hoping that the state will change or follow through on property tax reform. The last bill that they introduced that we're operating under now is not conducive moving forward. I think they realize that too. So we're hoping for a much more simplistic system. There's a lot of people that get involved once it gets to Des Moines, but yeah, I just wanted the largest part of that will be the rollback. It's just depends on that final percentage, but the reality is they require us to put in a $100,000 home. There's not a $100,000 home in Mount Vernon. So the state requires us to put that form in there. I mean, it's not realistic. So it looks like it's a 3.28% increase. That doesn't necessarily, it's not 100% accurate. The state realizes that their system isn't completely accurate, but I have, when I present the budget to the council, so we have negotiated wages, back to blue laws, all sorts of things. So public safety cost increase from a staff perspective is 4% just off the top. I don't also control health insurance, although we joined a conglomerate, and our health insurance increase has averaged between 3 and 4% over the last 3 or 4 years. So we've been able to curtail an 18 to 20% increase, which was what we were seeing before. So we are trying. One of the biggest issues I think the state still needs to address is the reassessment that occurs every 2 years. That is where a lot of people are being hurt.
Yeah.
Their property value is going down $50,000 and $75,000, and we can't control that either.
It literally is gonna crush, where I live, it's
Yeah.
gonna crush. Like, from 2015 to, the property assessment was it was $1,500, and I'm encroaching on $4,500 for property taxes. That's insane for a 1906 house. I don't have an acreage, I don't have a big lot. It's not like we've done a lot of updates, we've painted.
And as far as future property tax increases, again, I think it will be dependent on what the state changes to. There's 2 projects that I know of that are upcoming that may affect property tax rates. One is the Highway 1 reconstruction, and the second would be Uptown reconstruction. Both of those projects have the potential to affect property tax in the future. Currently, our debt service levy is actually 0, but I'm not 100% sure I'll be able to keep that with projects coming up. And then, I think the only other major change is sewer, and that phase 2 project that the state's requiring us to do went from $1.8 million to $4.5 million in estimated costs. So I don't have a choice. We're required under our permit that's issued by the state. I mean, it feels like I'm passing the buck to the state, but I kind of am, because everything that we do is established there. So everything that you see here is codified at the state. And it makes it somewhat challenging. On one side, they want us to reduce costs. On the other side, they're driving up costs. So, but this year, we were able to hold the levy rate steady.
Oh, I was just asking what you did think about it.
Yeah.
Point made.
Thank you for the explanation.
Don't look at Shereen yet?
She texted me, she's having technical difficulties, so we're trying to troubleshoot getting her, we'll see.
Public meeting is still open now. How much longer do we need to keep it open?
If you have any other questions, feel free to ask.
I mean, we can't start the next meeting until posted time of 6:30.
Yes, correct. The other thing that I would point out is the larger budget meeting that I do for the council for the presentation will be online. So if you're unable to make it, it will be there. It kind of shows where we're spending money and things like that. But
And when would that be?
it'll be on the website next week, late next week.
And the meeting is the 20th.
The meeting
It's
is the
next-
20th at 6:30.
And will that be the final, like, vote on?
Yes, even how I have the meetings is set by the state. So we have to hold this public hearing. We have to hold this public hearing before we can put the public notice in for the next meeting. Last year, we were being proactive and put the public hearing before this meeting and to give people more time to see it. And because we did that, we were stuck with whatever property tax we had for the previous year.
I would also like to make a suggestion. When you guys send out that, could you also send out something like this with the, because when you get the thing in the mail, you can't do that?
So that is generated by the county because the state requires them to send it out. And I will tell you that I've met with both of our legislators. They both freely admit that the document that gets sent out is not great.
Crude.
Yeah. State created it, the state,
Well, it looks like there's no accountability, that it's just.
no. And I feel like
You have
it's
no
kind of,
choice, suck it up.
I feel like it's kind of designed that way.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we should be contacting our representatives.
Yes.
And that
It would help.
Yes,
The biggest challenge I have is, this is year 2 or 3 of 718. Three. You're the first 2 that have shown up in the 3 years for this. And so they get that same information and it doesn't move the needle.
no. it wouldn't.
They don't want to hear from me because I'm a paid, just to accept, I'm a paid talking head. So my voice doesn't carry as much water as you would.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, the rollback is probably the most confusing portion of property tax.
Can you synopsize that for me?
I try.
Well, we have till 6:30, so.
Yeah, you got some time.
So, going back to the 70s, early 80s, there was concern at the rate in which land prices were increasing. And so, under Governor Ray, the answer was to roll back values so that you wouldn't get hit with all of those increases all at once. And then they tied ag property to residential. So the theory behind that was only one of them will typically increase at an exponential rate while the other one is typically going down. So they roll back your value. So right now, believe it or not, you're only paying property tax on about 45% of the value of your home. But that number has been as high as 60%. I've been doing this for too long, but excuse me, it's been as high as 60%, but it fluctuates every year. So every year in November, December, we go to a budget meeting and we find out what the new rollback number is going to be, and that's where we start.
Without advance warning, obviously, they just.
So I would tell you, I've been in Mount Vernon for 10 years. We've only changed the levy rate 3 times out of the 10 years. And what you pay in property tax because of the rollback changes every year. Sometimes it goes up, and other times it goes down. So when I tell people how difficult it is to budget, I have fixed costs, health insurance, employee costs, so on and so forth, all down the line. But I don't know how much more revenue I will get or not get until November, December, and then I have to have a budget in front of these guys by March. So, not a whole lot of time to plan. It's kind of reactionary at best.
Sounds like our whole society.
A little bit.
And what's happening in the schools?
The schools, I feel like are even a little bit worse, just because they get part of their funding from the state,
That's,
and that becomes a political hot button, so they get even less time
you
to certify their budget based upon their per pupil increase from the state. The system, I don't think that you would get any argument from myself, my colleagues, other councilmen from across the state of Iowa that the system needs to be revamped. But they've made it so complicated. You're seeing it right now. So they talked about property tax reform from the very start. That was going to be one of the first things that they did, and it has stalled out just because it's such a huge item, and they can't come to a consensus.
How many different plans have been?
So there's 3. The governor has a bill right now, the House has a bill, and the Senate has a bill. The Senate bill, for example, exempts individuals over the age of 65 that own their homes. Sounds like a sound theory, except if you look at the 900 and probably like 43 cities now, we've lost a couple this year. There are cities in Iowa, quite a few cities in Iowa, where their property tax income would go to 0 because their average age is above 50, 55, and a lot of them own their homes. So if you can imagine that tax credit that those individuals would get would put the burden back on your back, and it would not just a little bit, a lot. So we try to get this information in front of them, and I will say this, more so this year than any year in the past, the Iowa League of Cities, Iowa County Association, I'm not sure what it's, ISAC, and the legislature have talked quite a bit more, so there's some promise, but again, I don't know that we're any further. through some sort of reform. Right now, we grew last year, which would typically offset any need to increase on the remainder of the population. But under the current property tax bill, because we grew above 3%, we actually lost percent. So by the time we lost rollback, we were underwater, even though we grew 7-some%. We actually went backwards.
And only we're one of 21 cities in the state that,
Yeah,
of 900 towns that grew.
yes,
Yeah, so some changes that need to be made.
yeah. So, believe it or not, as much as I'd like, every tax law in Iowa starts in the morning.
Chris, for our meeting in a couple of weeks, I assume that you're going to follow the same format with PowerPoint and all that, which is fine, and it's fairly simple to follow, and especially for you guys to be able to look at it in advance and so on. My request from last year, make it this year before the meeting, is to put for the expenditures and the funding sources of 5-year history, so that we can see the percentage increases or decreases that are taking place, as opposed to just putting the number that you're throwing out for us.
Shireen, welcome from Indiana. Hopefully
She can't hear us. She texted me, so she can see us, obviously, but she's thinking that we're muted somehow. She can't hear us.
I swear they just had this fixed. Oh,
Can you hear us now?
can you hear us now?
I'm guessing not.
well, Shireen,
I love when technology works.
Yeah.
I really hate
Yeah,
it.
'cause we were muted, but now we're not.
Right, so maybe she just turned it down.
Do you wanna, can you message her and
Say, do you want me to message her, or you want me to?
The only other option I would have is, if she can see us, is that somebody could have her on,
Just on speakerphone.
on speakerphone.
Workarounds.
Mm-hmm. Getting pretty used to it since COVID.
Right. The beauty is we'll have to deal with this all over again because it's a different meeting ID for the next one.
Correct.
yes, she can hear us.
well, it should work.
Yeah, excellent.
Shireen, can you hear us? Oh, Shireen, can you hear us? Okay. Let me just explain, we're 20 minutes into the first meeting, the 6 o'clock meeting, the public hearing on the property tax levy, and we had one comment. Dominique, keep her, right?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll wait a few more minutes, and then probably at 6:25, and we'll close the public hearing, if that's okay, in another 2 minutes.
Thanks for coming.
And when your wages only go up this much and your property taxes go up this much and you feel the pressure and you see it around you every day and all day, and you see these families struggling, can't do anything if you don't say anything.
No.
Things have to be, something needs to be fixed, somebody has to speak up. And I feel bad for people who have kids. I don't have kids, and I'm feeling the pressure. Think about the families that work 2 to 3 jobs and the childcare being $1,500 a month. I know someone who pays $5,500 a month for 4 kids to go to daycare. I mean, it's not cheap. And I do have to say one thing. A lot of my families are looking to get into Mount Vernon because they have a great school system. That's what I hear on a daily from a lot of people. Like, but they can't afford, you know, with housing prices being $400,000 for a new build out, and, you know, it's not cheap. I appreciate your guys' time tonight, I really do.
We appreciate you speaking.
Yeah. Chris wasn't joking earlier when this is the third year that this specific meeting has been held. You're literally the first one to show up and have something.
So everyone else just writes the checks, huh?
I don't know how.
No, and-
I can't.
No, that's,
It's much appreciated. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, actually, it's not even that they write the checks, but most people have their payments in escrow and don't know. This is the bad part about this process too, is property taxes change, then your escrow changes. So, because this particular budget doesn't take effect until July 1. So it's usually after the fact, or after they do the reassessment every 2 years. Again, the system is not wonderful at all. I am quite impressed with Mount Vernon. Again, they've only had 3 property tax increases in 20 plus years. Not that it changes the current state of affairs, but, and to your point, this council has been looking at ways to get different housing styles in. It's just hard unless we play developer, which we're not very good at, so.
I'm not asking you.
No, it's, but it is challenging. We've met with probably 4 or 5 different developers in the last 2 years just to get somebody who can control land. That would be
It's expensive.
that's where it starts, so.
If there are no further comments, I'm going to close the public hearing and adjourn the first meeting. Take a pause, and then start the second one. So,
Thank you, guys.
adjourn. First meeting?
Send me a text next time.
I did not.
Like, he stayed where he was. He didn't move
So,
around.
it's not-
Cold, wasn't
Oh my God, so cold.
That's the coldest I've ever remember it being. Miserable.
I think it is.
But it's so quick.
Yeah.
I spend 2 hours setting it up and then it's over in 15 minutes.
How's it going, Nathan?
Did she get some eggs?
She did,
Did she
yeah.
get a ticket?
Oh, yeah, she was, we were all like, give her a pep talk, you know,
Yeah,
like, hey, now this is what you gotta do, and she just like,
Taking her
slow,
time.
and she just like, I'm like, hey, pick it up, pick it up. And then she, good, I said, go ahead and get that, like,
Yeah.
she'd walk real slow.
This one little girl had this basket of eggs and she dropped them. Or she had the basket of candy.
Yeah.
But she'd open it and she dropped her candy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
Oh, no.
Yeah.
frustrating.
Good evening again, and it is 6:30 and 10 call to order our next meeting here. And the first item on the agenda is if there are any changes to the agenda, and per Chris, I think we need to continue to keep tabled item E1 and G1. Is that correct? Public hearing and then the procedural action that follows that. The resolution.
With those notes, I would move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Moving second to approve the agenda with that one change. Ready to vote on that? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Next is communication section. If you are wishing to address the council on items on the agenda, just wait until that item comes up. And if you want to talk about anything that's not on the agenda, now's the time to approach the microphone and introduce yourself, and you've got 5 minutes. Anybody else on besides Shereen? Mics. Anybody here for public comment section? To Zoom? I'm not hearing anybody, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. And we've got 3 items on the consent agenda. Any questions about them? Or
I would move approval of the consent agenda.
thank you, Craig. Is there a second?
Second.
Craig and Paul moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. We're going to vote on that. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Skipping E1 and going to E2. Public hearing for a resolution amending the revenue purpose statement for the use of revenues from electric and natural gas franchise fees. We are officially opening the meeting here. Public hearing. Is anybody here to speak to that?
We move to close the public hearing?
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Yes, marking that. Correct. Moved and seconded to close the public hearing. And at this point, then we will move to G2, resolution for approval. 46-2026A.
There is a motion we would need to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's, okay. Let's vote on that motion. Let's vote on that. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. And now we can move to G2. Resolution 46-2026A. Resolution amending the revenue purpose statement for the use of revenues from electric and natural gas franchise fees.
Sorry, Tom, I couldn't hear Shireen. Are you muted, Shireen?
Yeah, we can't.
Does it show muted on?
No, it doesn't.
It's registering on her microphone.
Yeah, her microphone is,
Okay,
Or a thumbs up?
we'll just have to do a thumbs up for the roll call. For all motion.
Yep. There we go. All right.
So the added language in the resolution is to add public safety, including the equipping of fire, police, emergency service, sanitation, street, and civil defense departments. Again, that individual use that is allowed by state was left out because there was concern when we adopted franchise fees that that money would be leveraged against a new building project. Since we've got all of the buildings figured out, I think it's safe to put that back in there, and then the equipping portion of police becomes quite imperative moving forward, so we can move that out of the general fund and into franchise fees to buy spots.
No, makes sense.
Any comments from the City Hall?
None.
Heard this?
I would move approval to adopt a new revenue purpose statement for franchise fees, which will include public safety purchases, building and equipment.
I'll second.
Thank you, Paul and Craig. Move and second to move forward with 46-2026A, and that is a roll call vote, so Marcia is yours.
Turler,
Yes.
Engel,
Yes.
Andreessen,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Hanson, Player,
Up or
Shirley.
down?
Yeah, to the.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Got
So,
Okay.
I was waiting for that. Thumbs up.
She did say earlier that it's hard to hear everyone, so
Okay.
I don't know. The mics are.
I'll move my mic a little closer here.
You guys just do G2. Now going back, officially open the public hearing on ordinance amending chapter 166.03C, jurisdiction and applicability in the 2-mile extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Mount Vernon, Iowa. That public hearing is open. So 8 or 10 years ago, then we added the 2-mile jurisdiction territory to our property, our borders, I guess, if you will.
I believe 9.
9 years ago, okay. This adds a subset with regard to plats for surveying that are around our perimeter.
So, this is where the attorney and I disagree. But we had subdivisions in our 2-mile review when we first adopted the ordinance. A plat of survey is a subdivision because Lynn County defines the two separately. We need to list them both separately. So that's why you're seeing the addition of all. subdivisions, plats of surveys, anything else they can come up with to try and circumvent the 2 miles.
Anybody here to speak to? Public hearing is still open? This item. Otherwise, I'll officially close at 6:37 to close that public hearing, and then we'll proceed to F2, which is an ordinance.
I move approval of ordinance 4-6-2026A, amending subsection C to include the language in the amended ordinance.
Thank you, Scott. Is there a second? Second. It's moved and seconded to approve the first reading on 4-6-2026A. And I think we're ready to vote on that. Marcia?
Anderson,
Yes.
Turler,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Engel,
Yes.
Hanson Player,
Sounds good. I think we're now to F1. Ordinance and approval on 3/16/2026A.
This is the final phase of Spring Meadow Heights TIF district. We haven't received any verbal or written communication regarding the ordinance from the first reading.
So this is the second.
Yeah, we're looking at the second reading here.
Unless there are other questions or concerns, I move approval of ordinance 3/16/2026A, adopting phase 4 for Spring Meadow Heights TIF.
Thank you, Scott.
Are we approving the second reading? We already have done the second reading.
No, this will be the second reading.
That's what I heard Scott say.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Approving the second reading.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor,
Oh, sorry. Yes.
if I could just make a notation here for the education of everyone. And this isn't a criticism, this is just order of rules of operating. You can make a motion and have a second and still have discussion after that. So I think it's important to know for everyone that you don't have to qualify your statement, if there aren't. And if somebody does make a motion, but somebody has a question, they shouldn't stop that motion. They should allow that motion to go forward. Motions then can be seconded, or they're not seconded, and then that particular motion would die for lack of a second. But whatever topic we're working on, we could still discuss. The same motion could come forward, get a second, or a different motion could, be brought, seconded. And another thing, it rarely happens, but every now and then a council member, no one on this council has done it, but in my past experience they have, they make a negative motion to not do something, and that's not appropriate, because the only motions you should do is doing something in the affirmative. So I just wanted to make sure we were all clear on that, so our meetings flowed well and we were all on the same page, so that someone's not stopped in the middle of making a motion, or someone feels like, oh no, a motion's been made and seconded and we can't move forward with additional questions. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of council.
As far as Scott with the motion, and was there a second?
Second.
Paul, okay, there we go. It's moved and seconded to approve the second reading on 3/16/2026A. And is there any discussion about that? Otherwise, we will go to Marcia.
Engel,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Turler,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Hanson Player,
Thank you. I think we're off to H1. No, do we?
Yes.
Yeah, H1, okay. Proclamation recognizing Friday, April 24th, 2026 as Arbor Day in the city of Mount Vernon, Iowa. Got Arbor Day proclamation, which I'll read. Whereas In 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil of wind and water, lower our heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore I, Thomas M. Weisler, Mayor of the City of Mount Vernon, do hereby proclaim April 24th, 2026 as Arbor Day in the City of Mount Vernon. I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect trees and woodlands. Further, I urge all citizens to plant and care for trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. With my signature, and that is that proclamation. I did receive a notice just in the last couple of days that the Arbor Day materials that we ordered will be receiving them very soon, so that might impact some signage and it impacts Eldon, who's our forestry manager, among other titles. And in light of this Arbor Day proclamation, on a long weekend that I spent in Chicago, I did spend 2 hours at the Arboretum in the Chicago suburbs, getting close to nature and doing all the stuff that says this proclamation. So that is item H. We're now to J1, consideration of claims. A motion to approve. Any questions of staff about?
I move to approve the claims list.
Thank you, Paul. Is there a second?
Second.
Paul Mark. Moved and seconded to approve the claims list. And if we're ready to vote on that, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Discussion consideration of setting a public hearing date for the budget amendment number 1 to the fiscal year 25-26 budget for the April 20th, 2026 meeting. Council action as needed. Kind of explained that already, that just the matter of setting the public hearing date. At 6 o'clock again.
No,
Is it regular?
6:30.
Okay.
I move approval of setting the public hearing date for budget amendment number 1 for the fiscal year 2025-26 budget for our second meeting in April, the 20th, 2026.
Second that.
Scott and Mark. Moved and seconded. Setting the next public hearing date. So ready to vote on that. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Discussion consideration of setting a public hearing date for the adoption of the fiscal year 2026-27 budget for April 2026. Council action is needed. That's the repeat.
No, one was a budget amendment.
Oh, I got it. There's a little of the council on that one.
I would move approval of setting a public hearing date for the adoption of the fiscal year 2026-2027 budget for April 20th, 2026.
Great, thank you. And for that
Second.
appointment. Okay, Paul, moved and seconded to move forward with the date for the adoption, April 20th, 2026. We're ready to vote on that. This is a voice vote. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. J4 is discussion consideration of water control proposal, 447184. Thanks to Eldon and Chris for meeting with interested citizens about the quarry and what we can do in the future for it. Add anything?
This is a not to exceed amount of $6,540. The reason it's a not to exceed is we do not have to do everything listed. But we can go up to that number. Council asked staff to meet with IDNR, Iowa State Extension. We did meet with a couple of residents that have a history with the quarry as well. And both the IDNR and Iowa State Extension came back with this is about the only option that we can manage the vegetation growth on the surface of the water, if that is what council chooses to do moving forward. So it was either, for us, it's either kind of we leave it as is, or we go down this pathway of trying to manage the vegetation with herbicides.
Provide another summary, though, of your discussion with Laura, and
So-
what she ended up saying.
Yeah, I think initially, when we met with Laura, we had an excellent meeting. It was very eye-opening for us. Laura happens to be friends with a former Cornell professor that used to do a significant amount of testing at the quarry. And what he recalled was two things. Number one, that the quarry is spring-fed, although not mightily spring-fed, because it's obviously losing water right at the moment. The second is the amount of potassium or phosphorus that's coming up through or leaching through the basin of the quarry that will essentially forever cause habitat for invasive species, given everything that comes in, all the birds that come in. So wasn't necessarily opposed to us going down this pathway. Was excited that the goldfish, koi, whatever you want to call them, might actually be depopularized a little bit by these actions. Wasn't crazy, and I've heard this from a couple people, they weren't crazy about the unnatural look of dye. We can start without doing the dye and just see what it looks like. Hence the, not to exceed amount. But she was quick to point out, based upon that information, that this is a management process that you're essentially as a city going to adopt on a yearly basis. Probably not to the extent of the first initial 6,500 treatment, but understand that this is probably going to be an ongoing expense if the city chooses to continue down this pathway. There are 4 diffusers where we're aerating the water. When we met with Aquatic Controls, it was the clearest I've ever seen the quarry. You could see all the way to the basin. There was no invasive, nothing had popped out. 3 days later, we had 70 and 77 degree weather, and half the quarry was already covered. So as soon as it starts to get warm, this is going to come out. The plan is a 2-week process. Every 2 weeks, they would hit another quarter section of the quarry.
I'm curious a little bit more about the potential pros and cons of the dye. I understand the color. People may not, may think it looks unnatural. However, would it make a true difference, a positive difference, to have the dye? And just give people a heads up, hey, this is what it's going to be for right now.
I can't sit here and guarantee you that it would make a difference. I can tell you that I've talked to a number of people that have ponds that do dye their water, and it does.
Okay.
Is it purely cosmetic, or does it also, I'm thinking like block UV down into, to prevent the growth at the bottom?
Correct.
Okay.
Eldon, did you say you did this at your pond?
Its purpose is to shade that vegetation
Okay.
and not allow it to get sunlight to grow.
Yeah.
And again, I use that home in my pond. I fish there, we eat the fish and we swim in it. My dog eats the stuff sometimes. It's
It is dye.
It's not
Yeah,
toxic or anything, but
I'm really not opposed to a dye. If it's going to do a better job, I mean, right now we need to do as much as we can.
well, and I think the last few years, I think we've been subject to nature, I guess. It's been, there's so many variables that affect it. The lack of rain, which is lack of water flow, which kind of agitates that pond, and all the surface water that goes in there kind of stirs things up and helps that stuff not grow. So when it's just stagnant water and there's nothing moving, then it helps that stuff grow. So the vegetation that's around the pond that falls in there, decays, all adds to it. I don't know, there's just so many different variables to look at when if we're trying to make it a productive, something for people to use, opposed to just a natural.
I've noticed over the last several years, the flow of water in Hunt Creek has not been what it's traditionally been in the many years I've lived here, which again speaks to the lack of rain, the semi-drought conditions. In some cases, we've reached the level of drought conditions. To get a better understanding of the value of the quarry pond from a Parks and Recreation perspective, I've spoken with Matt and with Assistant Sarah Boots, and Sarah does a number of really interesting programs that I think are extremely valuable to the community and the youth in the community. So much of the emphasis in schools and even our Parks and Rec in the past have been on sports activities and those types of things. And Sarah has introduced some wilderness skills. She has done fish and wildlife type things. We actually have some small kayaks, and those kayaks can't be used because you can't row in all that vegetation. And it really, for me, was an eye-opener because I didn't realize that those things were going on. One of the things that Sarah did mention that she has seen a decrease, again, over the last several years. How much of it is drought-related or how much of it is related to the vegetation in the quarry pond, which may be impacted by drought conditions or not. That there's been a decrease in turtles. You see less fish. The bird activity is lessened, and I just, after all of the effort we've put in to date to try to mitigate this, it seems to me the right step to start with the treatment. It will only enhance what we've already done, and it's one of those things where, when a doctor, for example, is trying to find the right treatment for something, sometimes you have to go through several different types of medication to find the right combination to work for any given condition. And I feel like this is one of those things where we've been careful not to just herbicide, because that's the easy thing to do. But when you have the Iowa DNR and the Iowa State Extension saying, you've done everything right, this is really the only next option. If we want to keep that as a valuable, active area for the community, I support it 100%.
Want to maintain our park inventory, that's for sure.
How much additional would it be for it to die?
That's in the.
What's in this proposal?
We've got a max amount and we've got a vendor, aquatic control. Those little council on the side.
Well, I would move approval of the aquatics control proposal. number 447184, in the amount not to exceed $6,540 for the quarry pond mitigation.
I'll second.
Mark, moved and seconded to move forward the aquatic control proposal with a maximum on it. And if there are no other comments or questions, nothing to add. You're ready to vote on that? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item J5, discussion consideration of the World Maker Resiliency Institute invoice 0326 with the Mount Vernon-Lisbon Police Department. Council action as needed.
Invoices in the amount of $44,586.52.
And this is effectively a pass-through, correct?
Correct.
Because of the grant.
Right.
I appreciated the progress update that was included and the detail that went into with the survey and
Yeah, they're cutting no corners and it's going really
Yeah.
great.
yeah.
So lots of interest. They got
25% return on a survey is kind of unheard of, so that was pretty solid.
yeah. They got 3 trainings scheduled in the Des Moines area to kind of kick this thing off, and then we're trying to branch out after that. So we got some great members on the steering committee, and it's going really well.
This involves former citizen Molly Marty?
Yep.
Am I correct?
Yes.
How do our new officers integrate with this?
So we're trying to get we have Brady Carney, he's the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy director on our steering committee, and we're trying to figure out a way that we can incorporate this into academy sessions going forward.
Okay,
So it would impact them significantly. So yeah.
good.
That's,
I knew you guys.
that's great to be able to share. Love to see that happen.
Yeah.
I would move approval of the World Maker Resilience Institute invoice number 0326 in the amount of $44,586.52.
Seconded to move forward the World Maker Resilience Institute invoice. And no other comments from Chief? We're ready to go with that. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Item J6 is discussion and consideration of the application number 3 for the LBC generator project with Hawkeye Electric.
Finally?
Has it been tested?
It has been tested.
All right, it works.
It works.
Excellent.
It wasn't anchored down though,
Well,
but it is now.
lead with that.
They're gonna take off on us?
It was windy the other
Just
day.
makes it a little louder. Pay application is in the amount of $37,951.20.
I move approval of pay application number 3 in the amount as presented, and am very grateful to everyone that was able to make this happen in a timely enough fashion to make use of our grant.
What did they call? Is there a second?
Second.
Mark. Moving seconded to move forward with the application number 3 of the LBC generator project with Hawkeye. And if we're going to vote on that one, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion consideration of the pay estimate number 4 with the Ratchy construction on the Rachel Street improvements. Council action is needed.
$156,285.87, and there is finally some flat surfaces over there.
Okay. Happened fast.
Everything is staying on schedule as much as one can.
So far, it's like one of those things where is there a piece of wood?
I got it.
Yeah, yes, so far so good.
Excellent. Well, with that, I would move approval of pay estimate number 4 for the Rachel Street construction project in the amount of $156,285.97.
I'll second it. Good. Great. Moving seconded to move forward the pay estimate number 4 for Ratchy on the Rachel Street project. And if we're ready to vote on that, all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Next is discussion and consideration of the B&K invoice 51387-5 on the Rachel Street improvements.
I move approval of the B&K invoice number 51387-5 in the amount of $8,514.70.
Oh, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to move forward the B&K invoice on the Rachel Street improvement project. The amount of $8,514.70. There's no other discussion. We're ready to vote on that. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and consideration of B&K invoice 51390-1 on the Stonebrook Sewer Extension Council. Sewer extension. Council action is needed.
I have a question on this. So this, we have an easement through the property that,
We are working to secure an easement. In order to serve Bryant Road, the Stonebrook sewer is kind of a misnomer. It's just where it connects to, is the Stonebrook subdivision, but this is actually north of Stonebrook through the net property that we're working to try and secure an easement through.
okay,
That would serve Bryant Road and all properties to the north.
okay. And it would facilitate any development that would
Correct.
potentially happen on the net property. Excellent. With that, I move approval of B&K invoice number 51390-1 in the amount of $12,038 for engineering work on the extension, sewer extension project.
Please call. Mark. Moved and seconded to move forward the B&K invoice on the sewer extension, basically north of where we're at in Stonebrook, up to Bryant Road. And if there are no other comments of staff, ready to vote on that one. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Moving to the LBC, cardio equipment lease. It's up again.
So this is something that we do every 3 years. Number one, the cardio equipment sees the most wear and tear, has the most what I would call mechanical parts that need to try and stay under warranty, and are usually the pieces of equipment that you tend to see the most movement as far as new machines and what is in the industry. So we've used Johnson Fitness with the last lease, correct? And would like to stay with Johnson Fitness. The membership is used to those machines. We are doing something a little bit different. We're going to purchase some equipment outright out of Lost, just because we don't need to include them in the lease every 3 years.
Matt, do you have anything to add?
Well, just to add to what Chris said, we have normally added the freight and shipping into the finance price, as well as the delivery and the preventive maintenance. And we're looking at pulling that out of the lease, so we're not financing that and paying for it with lost funds.
Okay, that was the part I misunderstood, because all I saw was not doing preventative, the way my brain read it was not doing preventative maintenance, and then I saw it on the itemized, and so, okay, thank you for that clarification.
Just not financing
Okay,
that portion
yeah.
of it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. If we have some cash available, it makes sense to purchase that
Yeah.
smaller dollar amount.
Okay, excellent.
Was this the company that we had for our original equipment?
No, the original equipment was push pedal pull, and Precor was the brand.
And that was for a few years, and then we moved to Johnson.
That was for 3 years, and then we moved to Johnson Fitness. And in my notes, as I stated, that one of the issues we had with push pedal pull was with maintenance. Their maintenance department is not as strong as Johnson Fitness's. They had some issues with some multiple trips out to fix machines when they didn't need to come out multiple times.
The charging fee.
Charging for us for delivery and shipping for parts that didn't need to be that way, and so, yeah.
So we've had Johnson for 3 years, and this would be re-upping.
Correct. We're just continuing with them. This is financed through a separate company, and we found a couple of different quotes for financing, so we're actually gonna save some money on the financing as well. You're welcome. So, just to give you kind of a ballpark, right now our quarterly payment is $8,400, and it's going down to about $7,400, I think, so, with doing some of the lost purchases and so forth, so.
Excellent.
Thanks for that update, thanks for keeping us current.
I would move approval then of the LBC cardio equipment lease in the amount of $91,265 and the purchase of the SKI ERQ for $1,295.
Thank you, Craig. Is there a second?
Ski-erg.
I would second that. Do we also need to include the freight shipping and other incidentals in the total of $13,995?
If you want, your motion can just say as proposed,
Yeah.
and then that will take care of all of it.
As proposed.
Okay, with that, Craig, okay.
Then I would second the amended.
Can you explain what a ski-erg is?
Yeah, I decided not to send you all the specs and all the pictures of all the equipment, so a ski-erg is a vertical skiing machine where you've got two handles here, two ropes basically, and you're pulling down on a pulley system, and so you can control the torque that you want or the resistance that you want. So you're basically making a motion like this, like you're skiing almost.
So like your cross-country skiing?
Yeah, almost like that, but you start here
Yeah.
and go to the side of your, I can stand up if you want. So yeah, so you're just making that skiing motion. It's a vertical machine and it doesn't have to take up much space,
Yeah,
so.
not a large footprint, but I can see the value.
Yeah, and it's very popular, and it's a fairly new machine as well. So I have a picture of it if you want to see it after the meeting.
I think we need to get Matt out of here, because I don't think Shireen's able to see that.
Shireen does not want to see that, trust me.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
for describing that. I was intrigued.
Yeah.
because, you have the Nordic track and that type of thing, and I couldn't wrap my head around
Sure.
that and didn't take the time to Google it.
I get it.
Gosh, I think we've got, did we vote on this?
We did.
Did not, okay. If we're ready to vote on the Johnson cardio equipment lease for the LBC. Any other questions on that, since we have them here? Any more demonstrations? Otherwise, we're going to vote on that. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to Public Works with the dump truck replacement for Eldon.
So, I love when I challenge my staff and then they challenge me back. We had $150,000 in next fiscal year's, starting July 1, budget for equipment purchases. Two priorities right now. One is the bucket truck that we do all of the tree trimming with. The second is obviously the 06 dump truck. Somehow, there was a miracle and we got us to get one more season this last year. We only had $150,000 set aside for capital projects. I did tell them that if they could find two pieces of equipment for $150,000, I didn't care about the number, I just cared about the bottom line. So they found a truck in Pennsylvania.
And this includes delivery,
Yeah,
right?
$75,000 would include the delivery to get here.
How much fun would that be driving that from Pennsylvania?
Well, that was my question, because it's only got like 20,000 miles on it or something.
12,000.
It was a leased,
12,000?
it was a leased outfit, so it's been moderately used. There was a number of different factors we were looking at. Number one, we need the current 06 dump truck. It had a steel box, and everybody knows salt pretty much eats that up. We've been patching that thing for a while, and it's finally relatively unuseful at this point right now. Yeah, so this new truck has a stainless box, a stainless tailgate spreader, which is also something, I know in the past, we've went with the mid-chassis salt spreaders, and they've worked really well because of the hills, you get salt out in front of the back tires. However, it really eats the chassis up. And not having a wash bay, per se, to clean those trucks up really good, has also played a little bit of a role in that as well. But this truck is actually a little bit smaller than those single axle dump trucks that we have. Almost the same gross vehicle weight rating, but it'll be a lot easier to maneuver. It still has the big heavier blade, the stainless box, the stainless spreader, and really low miles. And the seller was willing to split the shipping in half of this, so yeah.
The note that I put in there, by the way, just so you understand, because I know people are gonna drive by truck country on 380 and go, there's trucks everywhere. It's only half the battle, so that's basically the cab, the engine, and the chassis. And then it goes and gets equipment. That's a year out. So even if we were to place an order in fiscal year 27, we probably wouldn't get it until fiscal year 28. We would be down a vehicle because we just can't put the 06 back out there in an unsafe condition. So,
So the 06 is going to get jumped.
Yeah,
Yes.
the hinge pins on the box are rusted out, the air tailgate mechanism in the back to open out has split apart away from the frame because it's rusted out. Coincidentally, something started leaking in the front end here when we parked it after winter snow removal was done. We have not checked into that. I don't know that we will.
Gov deals, here we go.
It's a wiring nightmare. Everything's just rusted out so bad on it, so.
this one's probably destined for scrap. But this does give, this will be part of your budget amendment if you approve this at the next meeting. And it does give the remainder 75 for them to try and identify a used bucket truck to replace that piece of equipment too, so.
So Martin, was this the Wednesday night auto auction?
Maybe.
I don't know where we could get it there. I think they detract when you
Tow it there.
have to tow it there.
Details. Okay, we've got, thanks to some shopping efforts,
I move approval of the replacement for the 2006 dump truck in the amount of $75,000 delivered.
Is it? I would, second.
on the mark. Moved and seconded to move forward the replacement process for the 2006 dump truck. And if we're all ready to vote on that motion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last item is the J, discussion consideration of the Bryant Road Public Works Facility cell boost vote.
Normally, this wouldn't be a significant issue. I would tell them to step outside if they needed to take a call, but understand that all of our buildings are essential when it comes to derechos, any sort of storm event. So there is always a possibility, and we've done this intentionally. City Hall has a generator, cell service, be self-sufficient, fire station, PD, and we're trying to get Public Works there. Obviously, if we're all operating inside the facility, then we need to be sure that we can get cell signal. We don't.
It's a one-time cost.
Yeah, we don't use radios like we used to.
I actually had Lynn County Sheriff's Department try to call me, and I was inside the building, and I could not receive a phone call.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Well, given that, I would move approval of the quote from RC Tech for the sub booster for Public Works in the amount of $3,085.11.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, I heard 30,000, but you said 33,000?
3,000.
Yeah, okay, yes, okay. 3,000.
Really
I would just let them know, 30,000.
Well, David's just right here. Got a motion second there. For the cell boost for the public works building. And if there are no other questions to staff, anything else for Eldon to add? Otherwise, we're ready to vote on that. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. No reports, no discussion items. Reports, mayor's report, I would add probably three things. I'm kind of watching how fast common apartments have been filling up. And they leveled off a little early, like at 7, and then it went to 17. But I heard two sources just recently that they are now at one vacancy, so 29 of those apartments are full. I know they were incentivized to have that property filled quickly. I don't know if they're meeting their targets, but it's close to being filled. I've not been able to ask the question of anybody with CHI, but of the people, those 29, are they former Mount Vernon residents? Are they from communities east on 30? Or where do they come from? Not to know who they are, but just to get an idea of what brought them to that property to Mount Vernon. So that's good to know. Second thing is, I'm going to do, with an ad to the paper in another couple of weeks, Coffee with the Mayor on April 18th, 10 o'clock. I'm going to do it at the Records and Hilltop Plants and Vinyl. Got the right title there. So I'll buy a coffee at Katrina's and walk across, and I'll set that up. And I'm paying for the ad myself out of my salary. So in case anybody gives any grief about it. But I'm curious to see what comes up, and I'll have a flip chart with different things that will bring up if it's slow to start out. But we're going to do that at that location on April 18th.
Looking for anybody to spin records?
I was gonna say, you gotta come up with a playlist.
I'm not cool enough for a playlist.
Disagree.
And a shout out to our public service group, police, fire, and ambulance, from Patty Westerkamp. She recently lost her spouse and was in a long conversation with Grace Chamberlain at the library. She's a frequent patron of the library, but she was commiserating at the loss of her husband about how supportive police, fire, and EMS have been through the process while he was at home. She kept him at home as long as possible, where literally sometimes a policeman would come out there and just help him get up, that she could not get him up, or and doing ambulance things that generated an invoice. So she was very receptive to that, and happened to be at the library. Grace passed that story on to me, and I want to make sure that it recognized for that. For those, the attitude of our service, public service staff up and down the line, police, fire, and ambulance. So please pass that on. So those are my three things to talk about with the mayor's report. Any council reports?
I want to just build on what Chris sent out on the triumvirate group that meets at Cornell about every 6 weeks, and it's the superintendent of schools, the mayor, city planner, Lori is there as well, I'm there, and then the CFO for Cornell. They are finalizing the search committee for the replacement for Jonathan Brand. The search committee will be run by the executive committee of the board. There will be faculty and staff on the committee as well. They are hiring an outside firm, and they hope to have a new president named by the end of this calendar year, and he or she then will start on July 1 of 2027. Had a note today from the head of the search committee, who I went to school with at Cornell many years ago, and she has asked me to contact Jesse Thurn to see if the search committee can meet with the next time that the community leaders breakfast takes place on April 30th, just to get some feedback from the community leaders as to what Cornell should be looking for in a new president.
Thanks for that update. Any other committee reports? City Administrator report, anything to add?
I have a question. We just happened to be coming home from a bike ride. And when Lisbon's UTV fire buggy and Mount Vernon grass fire truck went out and to assist on the fire last week, I think it was.
The big grass fire?
Yeah.
Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, and my question is, was that related to the West Bertram district, or?
I won't say that it's not necessarily related, however, I will say that, typically anything that happens in the periphery of Cedar Rapids and Marion, will often involve, it's kind of how we reciprocate the favor to those larger agencies, because they do not, have pumping capabilities. So, if there's not a hydrant in close proximity, then it's a little bit more difficult for them to manage. And of course, Mount Vernon, Solon, Springville, we're more used because we have more rural areas to battle those fires. So this is the beauty, I think, of mutual aid in those situations. They have, a full-time fire department kind of ready for us to go out at all times, and our volunteers are used to fighting those types of fires. But yeah, West Bertram, and I have a meeting tomorrow regarding that, is not unlike a number of smaller communities in the state of Iowa, facing numbers questions when it comes to volunteers, trying to maintain training standards for volunteer fire departments that weren't there, even 10 years ago. So, it's going to continue to be a challenge moving forward.
What's the best outcome you can hope for with the West Bertram situation? I mean, you've been meeting with them for some time, and
Can you ask me off the record?
probably not.
I think one of the challenges for Mount Vernon is Mount Vernon-Lisbon, just in general, we have solid numbers of volunteers. We have good equipment. We have well-trained volunteers. I think in some instances you would never know that we don't have a full-time fire department when those individuals show up. So testament to the leadership in both of those agencies. The challenge with West Bertram or any area that far to the west is just time. It takes a certain amount of time for our volunteers to get to the station, and then obviously X amount of time for us to get our equipment there. So while I would always want to be, or try to be part of a solution, it's challenging. It's challenging just because geography makes it challenging. And going back to my previous comment about Cedar Rapids and Marion, they equip differently than we do. So in some ways, from a fire perspective, depending on the location, so the grass fire, we probably do have equipment and personnel that are more used to fighting those fires. However, in a car accident situation, you're going to want Cedar Rapids and Marion to respond. So it just depends. I think for everybody that lives there, I would love for all of us to make it work, but at the same time, Lynn County Fire District, 3 townships, and the city of Mount Vernon pay to equip and train those volunteers. So, outside of mutual aid, it's difficult to give too much in that scenario without trying to get some monetary value back.
Good luck with your meetings with Wes Bertram. Anything else in your report? Any other comments? Anything else? Otherwise, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Greg.
No, it's all full body.
Yes.